أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء وسيد المرسلين وحبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم محمد
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين منتجبين المنتخبين المظلومين الغرر الميامين سيما بقية الله في العالمين وحجته للخلائق أجمعين سيدنا وإمام زماننا وصاحب نعمتنا وولي الأمرنا ومهدي هذه الأمة وطاووس أهل الجنة الحجة ابن الحسن العسكري فداه أرواح العالمين صلوات
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
So throughout history, many individuals have stood out. Many individuals have done certain things in their life that years and years after their passing, they are still remembered. They have either excelled in a certain field or excelled with a certain speciality, but either way, they've done something different than those living at their time, that 14 centuries later, people are still remembering them. Just as a few examples, when you think knowledge, when you think science, certain people, Isaac Newton, Albert Einstein, they come to mind. Why? Because they've done certain things in their respective fields that distinguishes them from the rest of the people at their time. When you think of war, when you think of battle, yes, when Muslims think of battle, we think of Amir al-Mu'mineen. But for example, if you were to look at war, battles, soldiers, warriors, fighters, certain names come to mind such as Troy, Achilles, Hector, etc. Why? Because they excelled in their field. Just like that, when it comes to women in history, not just Islamic history, but women in history, certain women stand out. Certain women have done things in their lifetime or have excelled in a certain way that people remember them years and years after they have left this world. For example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala within the glorious Quran has stated that there are 4 women who are guaranteed paradise. There are 4 women who will go to heaven. There are 4 women who are above all women, from the creation of Adam all the way till the day of judgment. Then we know that within those 4 women, we have Mary, the mother of Jesus. We have Asiya, who was the wife of Fir'aun. We have Khadija, who was the wife of the beloved Prophet. And we have the holy lady Fatima Zahra, salamullahi alayha. The 4th, and she's the greatest of all. And again, why these 4? Right? The reason why is because these 4 women have done things in their lifetime that, again, as I started the lecture with, distinguishes them from the rest of the women of their time. Right? Short examples on each one. So for example, we look at Khadija, salamullahi alayha. What did Khadija do? The Prophet said that this religion would not have prospered if it wasn't for the wealth and support that Khadija gave me. The Prophet said about his beloved wife, he said, she believed in me in a time when all others had abandoned me. Makkah had banished the Prophet from his home. The Quraysh had kicked the Prophet out of his homeland. The Prophet had nowhere to go. The Prophet was living in a valley known as the Shib of Abi Talib and eating leaves for 2.5 years. Why? Because the people had abandoned him. Then he said, from that lowest of my low, all the way till the prosperous religion of Islam and the state and government that I established in Medina was why? It was through the care of Abu Talib alayhi salam, and it was through the wealth of Khadija salamullahi alayha. They say that when Khadija wanted to propose to the Prophet, and she wanted to ask for the Prophet's hand in marriage, the hadith books state that Khadija put so much gold and gems and jewels in front of the Prophet that there was such a high mountain that the Prophet couldn't see Khadija anymore. That's how much she gave this religion. And she gave everything for this religion. And the sad reality is that not only did she give everything that she had, that when she left this world, the same religion that she gave everything for couldn't even give her a coffin to cover her body when she was being placed into her grave. But she distinguished herself from the women of her time, therefore she's one of the 4 women. Asiya, the wife of Fir'aun, as the Quran has told us on many occasions, was the wife of a man who claimed to be God. It doesn't get any worse than that. But despite your husband claiming that he is God and telling people to worship him, she stuck fast to her religion. She believed in the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. She believed in the prophethood of Nabi Musa alayhi salam, and therefore distinguished herself from the women of her time. And Mary, again, not just the Muslims but the Christians as well know her status and honor is so high that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed an entire chapter within the Quran in honor of her name. She is the only woman that was able to give birth through the virgin holy birth, as the Quran has said. She is one of the women who Jibreel alayhi salam would come and talk to. See, one of the problems that we get is a lot of people from the other schools of thought say, what? Angels only speak to prophets. That's it. They don't speak to regular people. Yeah, Jibreel used to come and have conversations with Mary, mother of Jesus alayhi salam. He used to bring her fruit from heaven. One day Nabi Zakaria comes into the place of worship and he sees that Mary is eating food from the winter, fruits from the winter in the summer. So clearly he understood that this is not just a normal thing. These fruits don't exist during this season. So he inquired, "Oh Mary, who brought you this?" So she responded back by saying that has been narrated within the Quran, that the angel Jibreel brought me this food from heaven. So what? She distinguished herself. And finally, the 4th and the greatest of all women to walk this earth, the daughter of the beloved messenger. We all know what she did in her life that distinguished her from all other women during her time. The only woman to have been blessed within Hadith al-Qisa. The only woman that was the witness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the day of Mubayala. The only woman who loving her is wajib upon every Muslim. No other woman as a Muslim do you have to love. No other woman that Allah made it wajib on you. But the only woman within the Quran, in قُلْ لَا أَسْأَلُكُمْ عَلَيْهِ أَجْرًا إِلَّا الْمَوَدَّةَ فِي الْقُرْبَى. Say to them, O Messenger, I do not ask for any reward for bringing you this religion of Islam, except that you love my family. And within his family of the 4 members, the only woman was the Holy Lady, Fatima Zahra. Therefore we see that these 4 women distinguish themselves. Other than these 4 women, there is also another woman. A woman by the title of Ummul Baneen, who we have gathered tonight to remember. Ummul Baneen, who we have gathered tonight to mourn the loss of her death as well. But what was so special about Ummul Baneen? Okay? When you think Ummul Baneen, a few things come to mind. One of them is the fact that she was the mother of Abul Fadl al-Abbas. And we all know that the upbringing of a child is dependent upon their parents. The upbringing of a child is dependent upon the nurture, the love, and the lessons that your mother and your father give you. But despite the fact that she was the mother of Abul Fadl al-Abbas, and despite the fact that she was the wife of Amir al-Mu'mineen, what else is it about Ummul Baneen? That yes, she wasn't a part of Ahlul Qisa. Yes, she didn't go to Mubahila. Yes, she's not one of those who loving is wajib. Yes, she's not one of the 4 women who are the women of paradise. But still here we all are today on this Saturday night. We could be doing anything right now. We could be out with friends, we could be going to the cinemas, we could be at a restaurant, but no. We've cut our lives, changed our course, and we've come to this brother's house. Why? To remember Baneen. So inshallah tonight, I would like to mention a few anecdotes from her life. Things about Baneen prior to the marriage of Amir al-Mu'mineen, after the marriage of Amir al-Mu'mineen, and how she raised her 4 lions that sacrificed themselves on the day of Ashura for Aba Abdullah. And then inshallah in the end, we would like to end with the Masa'ib of Baneen as well. So with Baneen, yes, she was the wife of Amir al-Mu'mineen. But Amir al-Mu'mineen, whilst being married to Fatima Zahra, did not take a second wife. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, you can marry 2, 3, 4 women, only if you can do justice. If you feel that you cannot do justice, then you can only marry 1. One of the reasons why Amir al-Mu'mineen did not take a second wife whilst he was married to the Holy Lady was because Amir al-Mu'mineen loved Fatima so much. He loved her so much that when she passed away from this world, we have a hadith where Amir al-Mu'mineen says, "O Zahra, you leaving tonight, my back is broken. O Zahra, who will I discuss my problems with?" Amir al-Mu'mineen used to say that during the 27 years of the Khilafat, and especially after the death of the Prophet, I used to go through so many hardships, so many sufferings. The Muslims never used to reply back to the salam of Ali. Amir al-Mu'mineen, the man that saved this religion, the man that because of his sword, the Muslims were safe, comes home one day and sees that his wife notices that he's sad. So Fatima asks, "Ya Abul Hassan, you look a bit troubled today, what's wrong?" He says, "O Zahra, the Muslims don't offer me salam anymore." So she replies back and says, "Ya Ali, don't worry. Why don't you offer them salams? It's wajib on a Muslim to reply back to the salam to a Muslim." Amir al-Mu'mineen says, "Ya bint Rasulullah, I give people my salams. The Muslims don't respond back to my salam." The ghurbat of Ali ibn Abi Talib. But at the same time, Ali says, whenever I used to come home and I used to look at the face of my beloved wife, all my problems would go. All my problems, all my trials, all my sufferings would erase from my face. For this was my wife whom I loved so much. And the same thing applies to Rasulullah. Yes, at one time, our beloved messenger had 9 wives, right? At one time, the Prophet had 9 wives. But during the marriage of the Prophet with Khadija, salamullahi alayha, can anybody show me the Prophet taking a second wife? Can anyone show me? And then there's a question, who was the Prophet's favorite wife? You can't be the favorite wife of the Prophet if he's marrying 8 other women whilst being married to you. But at the same time, you are the favorite wife of the Prophet if he doesn't even consider marriage with another woman whilst he's married to you. So Amir al-Mu'mineen, when the holy lady Fatima was leaving this world, she says to him, "Ya Ali, after I pass away, I want you to marry a woman from a tribe that is known for their bravery, for a tribe that is known for their valor, a tribe that is known for their courage." Why? Because, Ya Ali, from that woman I want you to produce a son. That son of yours and hers will also be my son. And we will name him Abbas. And his job and purpose on this world will be nothing other than the day of Ashura. And Abbas's job and purpose of his creation is to defend his brother Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. That's it. So when Fatima salamullahi alayha leaves this world, Amir al-Mu'mineen goes to his brother Aqil, his older brother Aqil ibn Abi Talib, who was a master of genealogy. So Amir al-Mu'mineen says, "Oh brother Aqil, you're a master of genealogy. You know which tribe is known for what trait. You know which Arab tribe has what qualities. You know who is good for what." He said, "Yes." He says, "So I want you to find me a woman from a tribe that is known for their valor, for their bravery, for their courage, and for their loyalty." These were the 4 things that Amir al-Mu'mineen was looking for. So Aqil says, "Okay, brother, give me some time." So he goes, comes back to Amir al-Mu'mineen after a few days, and he says, "Ya Ali, I have found a woman from a tribe. This woman and her tribe and her ancestors and the men in her tribe are known for their bravery, valor, courage, and loyalty." So Amir al-Mu'mineen says, "Introduce me to the family." So they introduce Amir al-Mu'mineen to the family. They accept the wedding proposal. Amir al-Mu'mineen marries Ummul Baneen. One of the first things that Ummul Baneen did when she married Amir al-Mu'mineen, which shows to us who this lady is, right? When you get married to a person that's already been married, right, and you marry someone that already has kids, one of the first things that you feel that you are going to do is you are going to compete for the love of those children, right? When you're coming into the house as a stepmom, when you're coming into the house as a second wife, one of the problems women will face is what? Will they ever love me the way they love their mother? Will their father even love me the way he loved the first wife? So the first thing that Ummul Baneen did when she married Amir al-Mu'mineen paved the way to tell us who this woman is, what her qualities are. Which is what? She comes to the door of Amir al-Mu'mineen, a newlywed bride, enters into the house but stops at the door, doesn't go in. Amir al-Mu'mineen says to Ummul Baneen, "Come on in." This is your house now. She says, wait. She goes, I have a request before I enter this house. So Amir al-Mu'mineen says, what's that request? She says, Ya Ali, my name is Fatima, right? He says, yes. Baneen was not her name. Baneen was a title that we give her, the mother of sons. Her name was not Baneen, her name was Fatima. But why do we not call her Fatima? Why do we call her Baneen? The reason why is because she herself said, Ya Ali, as I'm about to enter my new marital home, and as I'm about to enter to become a mother to your kids, I want you to do one favor, Ya Ali. He says, what's that? He says, never call me Fatima in front of the children. So Amir al-Mu'mineen inquires, why? He says, because she replies back by saying what? She says, Ya Ali, I don't want the children to hear the name Fatima echoed into the house and for them to remember the loss of their mother Fatima. Look at the vision of this woman. She's not competing for the love of these children. She's saying, look, your mother is your mother. Sayyidatun Nisa'il Alameen. No woman can compare to her. I share the name of Fatima, but Ya Ali, please never call me Fatima. Just call me something else. I don't want the children Hassan and Hussein and Zainab and Kulthum to hear the name Fatima and think of their mother. Therefore, we do not call her Fatima, we call her Ummul Baneen. When she came into the house, she helped raise Imam al-Hassan. She helped raise Imam Hussein. She helped raise Sayyidah Zainab. And she helped raise Kulthum alayhimus salam. To such an extent, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would then bless her with 4 sons. 4 boys. Now it's important to note that these 4 boys were who they were because their mother was Baneen. The way she raised Abul Fadl al-Abbas and the 3 other sons that she had with Amir al-Mu'mineen, the time and effort that she put into raising them made them who they were on the day of Ashura. Made them the lions that they were. That we sit 1400 years later today and remember Abbas. Why do we remember Abbas? Because of his loyalty, because of his bravery, because of his honor, because of his religiosity, because of his knowledge. But who gave him all this? Who taught Abbas what loyalty is? It was Ummul Baneen. She would say, oh Abbas, Hussein is not your brother, he is your master. If Hussein is sitting, then you are sitting. If Hussein is standing, then you are sitting on the floor. Never sit equal to Aba Abdullah. Oh Abbas, if Hussein ever needs anything, then you go out of your way and you get that thing for him. He is not your brother. Never call him brother, O Abbas. Call him Sayyidi. Call him Mawlai. Call him by his kunya and his titles. He's not your brother. Yes, he was the brother. And she was teaching Abul Fadl Abbas that the son of Zahra is different to the son of any other woman. Amir al-Mu'mineen himself in the Battle of Siffin showed us this. When one of his sons by the name of Muhammad ibn Hanafiya was about to go to the battlefield, and one person came to him and said, oh Muhammad, is it fair that Ali protects the sons of Batul but sends his own sons like you and Abbas to go and die? Is that fair? Muhammad ibn Hanafiya replies what? He replies back by saying, we are the sons of Ali. They, meaning Hassan and Hussein, are the sons of Batul. It is the job of the sons of Ali to protect the sons of Batul, just as it's the job of the hands to protect the eyes. So they were raised this way. She taught him loyalty. She taught him bravery. And when upbringing your children as well, one of the most important things, especially us living in the West, is the main thing that I think is prayer. Salah. One of the fundamental things that we have within our Furu'id-Din, but at the same time we might not be giving it the same importance that it deserves, right? So not to focus too much on that, this isn't a dars at the end of the day, it's a lecture, but just to mention one hadith, that we follow who? Ali, Amir al-Mu'mineen, right? We follow Ali ibn Abi Talib, right? We try to emulate him in everything that he did, right? When you put the sentence Ali and namaz together, right? One of the first things that comes to our mind is what? That Ali used to offer 1,000 units of prayer per night, right? And we can't even get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and offer 2 units of prayer, which is wajib, known as Fajr, and then we say we are the Shia of Ali. A very famous narration one day that Salman al-Farisi in the mosque of the Prophet is looking and seeing that Amir al-Mu'mineen is in sujood crying, right? He's crying until finally he's flat on the ground, laying on his stomach. He's crying until he sees that Amir al-Mu'mineen doesn't look like he's breathing anymore. It looks like Amir al-Mu'mineen has left this world. So he's possibly fainted due to his immense love of Allah and due to the immense worship that he was doing. So Salman Farsi naturally comes to the house of Fatima, knocks on the door and says, Ya Zahra, I have some sad news. So she says, what is that? He says, Abul Hassan has passed away. So she inquires, she says, Salman, what state did you see my husband in that you think that he has passed away? So Salman says, I saw him in the mosque. He went into ruku, he went into sujood, and then he was laying on the ground, he was crying and wailing, he was breathing, and then all of a sudden he was still like a statue, he wasn't moving. So I fear that he has left this world. So Fatima replies back to Salman saying, oh Salman, you are seeing this today, I see Ali like this every night. The worship of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Our fourth Imam Sajjad does what? That when his father Aba Abdullah is killed, the time that is the most difficult for a human being, losing your father, spends the entire night of the night of Ashura in one sujood. The whole night, our Imam Sajjad spent in one sujood. To the extent that there is a narration from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam in which he says that my grandfather, Imam Zainul Abidin, after Sham-e Ghariba, spent one entire night in thankfulness, in sujood to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that when the morning came and he was still in sujood, there was a voice that was cried from the heavens, Anta Sayyidus Sajideen. You are the master of those that prostrate. So when upbringing your children, yes, you teach them loyalty, yes, you teach them bravery, but I just think, just to mention, it's important to make sure that our children understand the importance of salah. With my children, for example, these two naughty boys sitting here, to bring them towards prayer is not an easy thing. You understand, they're 5, 6, 7 years old. They don't, lead. Well, Islamically, they don't have to pray, right? You can't force them to pray. So what do? The little one here, Hadi, he likes the Incredible Hulk. The older one, he maybe likes Batman, Spider-Man. So what I did was when I started praying, I would put the Hulk next to me and pray. A couple of days passed, the little one, he would notice that Hulk's with dad reading namaz. Slowly, now he has his Musalla next to mine. The older one is looking for Spider-Man. Where is he? One day he sees Spider-Man in a Jamaat with dad reading Maghrib together. Now, alhamdulillah, both of them stand next to me and pray. Don't force them. Don't say you have to pray. You're going to draw them away from religion. Use these little things. Like this Hulk thing is just something I randomly thought of. If your children like anything, try it. Inshallah, it would work. But raise your children in that way. So Ummul Baneen taught Abbas, this is your master. He's not your brother. Therefore, if he's standing, you're sitting. If he needs something, you give it to him. So she spent her entire life teaching her children and at the same time protecting Aba Abdullah al-Hussein. So the reason why we remember Ummul Baneen, whenever you think of somebody in history that's famous, right, think of any random celebrity you want. Right? I'm not going to ask who you're thinking of. Any random celebrity, everybody's thinking of someone right now. Would you ever think that that person became who he became because of his mother? No. First thing you're thinking, any random actor, Tom Cruise, Brad Pitt, whatever you want to think of, you're going to think they have good acting skills, therefore they became famous. Any celebrity you want, but when you think of Abul Fadl bin Abbas, one of the first things that we say is Abbas became Abbas because of Ummul Baneen. He became Abbas because of Ummul Baneen. And the Masayib of Ummul Baneen is such that we see what? Her name was Fatima. She said, oh Ali, don't call me Fatima, call me Ummul Baneen. Then a day came where she said, don't even call me Ummul Baneen anymore. The mother of sons. Why? I don't have any more sons. My sons are gone. In the Masayib of Ummul Baneen, we remember what? We remember that every day after Aba Abdullah al-Hussein left the camp of the city of Medina, every day she would come out and say, is there any news of Hussein? She would never ask, where's Abbas? She would never ask, where's Abdullah? She would never ask, where's Ja'far? Never. Only one thing was on the mouth of Ummul Baneen, is Hussein okay? Is my Hussein back? Every day she would ask. Every day people would say, no, we have no news. She would then go home Until one day Imam Zainul Abidin would say that Zainab returns back to the city of Medina. The Imam stands at the entrance of the city of his grandfather Rasulullah, and he has a companion by the name of Bishr. He turns towards Bishr and he says, "Oh Bishr, your father was a poet. Are you a poet as well?" Bishr says, "Yes, Yabna Rasulullah, I'm a poet." The Imam says, "Then I want you to go into the city of Medina and I want you to stand next to the grave of Rasulullah and I want you to tell the people what happened to us in Karbala, and only then will we enter into the city of Karbala." At that moment then Bishr does what? He enters into the city of Medina, stands next to the grave of Rasulullah, and Bishr begins calling out what? أعظم الله لك الأجر يا أم البنين بمصابنا ولدك الجعفر. He stands at the grave of Rasulullah and he says what? He says, "O people of Medina, leave your houses and get out, for Hussein has been killed in Karbala." All of a sudden the Muslims come and gather around Bishr to see what he has to say. Bishr notices that there is an old woman with a baby in her arms. This old woman approaches Bishr. She says, "Oh Bishr, I hear that you have news from Karbala. Can you please tell me, is my Hussein still alive? Has my Hussein returned back to Medina?" So Bishr asks the Muslims, "Who is this lady?" They say, "Take it easy on her, Bishr. This is Ummul Baneen. She is the mother of Abul Fadl al-Abbas, the wife of Ali ibn Abi Talib." All of a sudden Bishr thinks, how am I supposed to tell this woman that 4 boys have been killed in Karbala? So one by one he begins giving her condolences on her boys. He says, "Ya Ummul Baneen, أعظم الله لك الأجر بمصابنا ولدك الجعفر." May Allah give you patience, O Ummul Baneen, on the martyrdom of your son Ja'far. Ummul Baneen says, "I did not ask you about Ja'far, Ya Bishr. Tell me, where is Hussein?" Then all of a sudden he says, "O Ummul Baneen, أعظم الله لك الأجر بمصابنا ولدك العبدullah." May Allah give you patience, O Ummul Baneen, on the martyrdom of your son Abdullah. She replies back by saying, "Oh Bishr, I did not ask you about Abdullah. Tell me about Hussein." Until finally Bishr says, أعظم الله لك الأجر يا أم البنين بولدك العباس. All of a sudden Ummul Baneen raises her hands up towards her head. The baby falls down from her arms. The baby falls onto the ground. She looks at Bishr in his eyes. She says, "Bishr, surely you have cut my heart into pieces by telling me this news. But I ask you again, O Bishr, where is Hussein? May 1,000 Abbasis be sacrificed for Hussein. Is my Hussein still alive?" And then Bishr finally says, أعظم الله لك الأجر يا أم البنين بولدك أبا عبد الله الحسين. Aba Abdullah al-Hussein has also been killed in Karbala, Ya Ummul Baneen. All of a sudden Ummul Baneen says, "What happened to Aba Abdullah?" He says, "Aba Abdullah, the horses of Bani Umayyah trampled on the body of Aba Abdullah, Ya Ummul Baneen. His head was severed from his body, Ya Ummul Baneen. They raised his head on a spear, Ya Ummul Baneen." All of a sudden she says, "Ya Bishr, where is Zainab? Is Zainab still alive?" Bishr says, "Zainab became a prisoner for Bani Umayyah, Ya Ummul Baneen." So he asks, "Where is Zainab? Where is Zainab gone?" So at that moment Bishr says Zainab has returned to her home. Ummul Baneen comes to the house of Sayyida Zainab and she knocks on the door. Just before I tell you what happened when she entered, I just want you to think about one thing when you're thinking about Ummul Baneen, right? Ummul Baneen raised Zainab, right? Ummul Baneen knows what Zainab looks like, right? Ummul Baneen was the mother of Zainab. She raised Zainab. So if you were to put Zainab in front of Ummul Baneen, evidently you would know that Ummul Baneen knows what Zainab looks like, right? But when Ummul Baneen knocks on the door, Fidda answers. Ummul Baneen comes inside. She sees a woman on the prayer mat. She taps the shoulder of this woman. She says, "Oh lady, I am here to inquire about Zainab. Do you know where Zainab is?" All of a sudden this woman turns around. She looks at Ummul Baneen. She says, "Oh mother, do you not recognize your Zainab?" Ummul Baneen would then say, "Ahanti Zainab al-Hashimiyya. Are you Zainab from the clan of Hashim?" Sayyidah Zainab would say, La, ana Zainab al-Masbiya. I am no longer Zainab from the clan of Hashim. Who am I? I am Zainab al-Masbiya. I am Zainab that was taken captive. She says, oh Zainab, I don't recognize you anymore. What trials did you go through? So now Baneen and Zainab are having a conversation. Baneen is asking what? She's saying, oh Zainab, what happened to Hussein? Talk to me. What happened to my son Hussein? Where was Abbas? That was the first question. Where was Abbas when Hussein needed him? Did my Abbas fail in his duties? Oh Zainab, tell me. So Zainab would respond back by saying, no, Baneen. Abbas showed loyalty like there was no other loyalty, oh Baneen. Abbas was thirsty for 3 days. He came to the river of Furat. Abbas raised the water towards his lips. He did not take a single sip, ya Baneen. In fact, he threw the water back into the Euphrates and he said, what? Ya nafs min ba'd al-Husayni huni wa ba'dahu ma kunti aw takuni hadha Husaynun waridul manuni wa tashrabina barid al-ma'ini. Oh Abbas, what life is there worth living after Hussein? Oh Baneen, his right hand was cut, his left hand was cut, he had an arrow in his eye. Oh Baneen, Abbas fell from the horse, and for the first time in his life he said what? He said, Akhi adrik akhak. Oh brother, please come and rescue your brother. Oh Baneen, Abbas showed loyalty, no doubt. And then all of a sudden, after she finished crying with Zainab, Baneen did what? Final words. Baneen did what? She used to sit in Jannatul Baqi. Baneen lived for a few years after the event of Ashura, after the event of Karbala, just a few years. In those few years, every single day, Baneen would come towards Jannatul Baqi. She would sit in the graveyard. She would make 4 graves with her finger. Then she would make 1 big grave. Those 4 were to represent her sons. The 1 big grave was to represent Abu Abdullah. She would sit there and she would cry every day. And she would say what? She would say, La tadu anni waiki Baneen. Do not call me Baneen any longer. Why? She says, because I have lost my boys in Karbala. And she would always say one thing. She would say, oh Abbas, oh my son Abbas, I have a question. They say that whenever a man falls from the horse, whenever somebody falls from a horse, how do they shield their fall? How do they protect their face, oh Abbas? They use their hands to protect their face. Oh my son Abbas, when you fell from the horse, you had no hands. So how did you protect your face? Oh my son Abbas, you must have fallen on your face, oh Abbas. How did you land, oh Abbas? Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Wa saya'lamu alladhina zalamu ayyu munqalabin yanqalibun. Salawat.